tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a child theme, and I'm really going to use the WordPress documentation on how to create a child theme as really an example and really explain each one of their steps as I go. So the first thing is just creating your child theme. And now we're using a previous WordPress install I have for an example I already made. And I already set up the child theme. I'm going to go ahead and show you exactly what it is. You can see I have this child theme in here. And you can see that it's using the 2015 version, and I go ahead and make that. Now let's go ahead and see how that's done. So the first thing we're really going to need, and this is all you need to set up a child theme and it will appear on your page, is your style.css. Now you can just copy this from WordPress's documentation. See, this is very similar to what I have. And you really only need a theme name and our template. And this is what calls this. Notice how this and this are the same. And then just call it something in a text domain. Also important. I like to give it an author, usually myself, as well as like a URL. And that's really so if someone else starts working on the theme down the line, they can find me and ask me questions about some weird things I may have done that they don't understand. Okay, so the next step is to look at your functions.php. Now we can go ahead and look in here just to show it. And they have this, and this is in queuing styles. You can see that I actually do that right in here. The first thing to do is to load in your style sheet. Now previously, and you probably see this, the WordPress documentation used to say to use a @import like this, and then it would say you'd be able to put a URL to this style sheet right here, and then you import all their styles. Now, the new way to do this is to not use the import, because imports are inherently slow and not a great way of having performance on a web page. So the better way of doing it is to use enqueueStyle. We're going to call this parent style. Very simple. And then you call in the template directory. Now this is a good time to explain what the difference between template directory is and style sheet directory. Since we're using a style sheet, you want to call, since we're using a child theme, you want to call in a style sheet directory instead of the template directory URI. That really makes things much better when you're trying to get the URL. Then we need to call in our actual style sheet, and this is a good way of doing that as well. So now we have our theme styles in there, and we have our child theme created, and after those steps you can actually just activate your theme. So these are the two most important files, this and this. Now the next thing you're going to have to do after you're set up is to actually overwrite certain files. Now let's go ahead and do a demo. So we're going to go over here, we're going to look at a demo page, and I put in some sample content in here. Now let's say we want to make a change to this page. Now how do we do that? First we want to see maybe where that page is. Sometimes it's using a template, etc. I go into the body class, and most themes have this, not all themes. It says page template default. So that tells me it should be under page.php, just because I know the WordPress hierarchy. So just to test it, to make sure that I'm editing in the right place, we can go over and find page.php, and we can just do a quick little test and see if that works. And I just save that. I'm going to refresh the page. See, test came in. Now I want to go ahead and edit. I want to go ahead and add something in here that's not test.php. But we don't want to overwrite this file, because what if the theme changes, etc. You want to be able to overwrite it in our child theme. Let's go ahead and create a page.php in here. Now what this is going to do is the WordPress child theme is going to be run first, and this is only going to get loaded if this doesn't exist. So now, since this is going to be a blank PHP file, this is actually not going to load. Cool. Now if I put in here, test, now it's only going to load test. So the way to fix this, simply copy and paste this right in here, and now it's back to normal. And you can see that we're editing within our child theme. If I want to put something like H1, this is a test, you can see that it comes in right in here. Now, there's also all these functions in here, like get template part. Now, get template part is also a really nice thing that WordPress has put in, and it's an alternative of using something like require or includes in PHP. And what this tells you is that for anything this is loading in, you can overwrite that file with a child theme. Let me show you what I mean. So let's actually delete page.php so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. Now, let's say we like page.php in our parent, but we don't like the content area. Let's go ahead and find where that content area is searched. Now, what this is telling us is it's going to load a file called content, and then PHP, so -.php. You can see it's right here. Now let's go ahead and see that. You can see that this is definitely where the header is, so we can actually put test in here, and it should appear right here. Awesome. So you actually got that to work. Now what's cool about these get template parts is now we can actually make the same file. And we're going to call this content page PHP. We're going to copy and paste this just like we did for page.php. And we are going to change it a little bit. You can see that this is in our demo. Now, so you can see that I just changed this little file without changing the entire structure, only in this one specific place. And let's go ahead and change it back. Now, I showed you how to replace files, and now you can do that with almost every file that's in here, at least PHP. But let's go ahead and show you the next step on how to replace style sheets as well as JavaScript. Style sheet requires you to do a few things. The first being we want to actually dequeue it and deregister it from our style sheets. So the first thing we have to do is really find what style sheets we want to find. Now, a lot of times, at least the 2015 theme, does it where it puts all its scripts all together. You can really find all these names. So just for a test, let's go ahead and remove this GeneraIcons CSS sheet. Now we can see if this is being loaded or not, simply either through our network, if we refresh it while it's open, or through our resources. I think our resources is going to be easier. You can see it's loading right here. So let's make it not load. Now to make it not load, the easiest thing, just to make sure that this is what's loading it, we can just comment that out, and you can see that that's definitely making it load because it doesn't appear anymore. But that's not the correct way of doing it. So we just want to make sure we have this name, take this name, and we're going to write a little bit of PHP. I already wrote this before, but we're going to make an action, and it's going to go towards when WordPress prints the styles. We're going to run this. We're going to use two functions, the WP dequeue style and the WP deregister style, and just simply call it. Now when I run this, it's going to run this action, run this style, and you can see that now it does not load. I can do the same thing for scripts as well, or for JavaScript. So you can really take the same code, and it's really the exact same thing except for it says script instead of style. The next thing would be overwriting a style sheet. So let's go ahead and we're going to remove this PHP, and we're going to overwrite this. Now, if we want to overwrite this, now if I go ahead and load this, you can see it's coming in. Let's actually look at our source code and see how it's coming in. And you can actually see it right here. Pretty easy to find. See where it's loading. Now this says version 3.2. Now let's say I want to load in a different version. I want to load in 3.10, whatever. You can just refresh that, you can see that it comes in. So I can actually replace things right here. Now, what if I want to load in a separate URL? Now you can see that it just replaced that. Now our problem is, of course, we didn't actually do that. So we're going to get a 404 error right in here. So we would have to simply copy this into place by making a new file at the exact same place that we're calling it. And you can see that now I get rid of that 404 error. When I load in this file, you can see it loads in a blank CSS sheet, but now I can put whatever CSS sheet I want to put in there. And I'm overwriting the style sheet that's already in there. And that's because the parent theme used the sync style sheet. Now, fair warning, if the child theme is using, or the parent theme is using a more traditional way of writing it, just with solid HTML and not using WordPress's helper functions, this will not work at all, and it will cause some issues. Now, the same thing, of course, could be done with JavaScript. The next part about a child theme is to create a way to overwrite functions. Now, this is like very rarely seen in theme development. It's something that people really miss over, but WordPress is something that it's a huge recommendation to do. Now, if a theme is using some functions and you want to overwrite them, most of the time you're out of luck. But if they use something called function exist, which is just a simple PHP function, you can actually use the same thing. So what this does is, if this function exists in your child theme, since that ran first before this is now going to run and say, oh, it already exists, we can't use it. So let me show you how it works. So we're simply going to use this, and we have some theme locations. Now let's go ahead and we want to change those theme locations. Now we have these themes right here, and we just want to change the name. Now if I change the name of the parent theme to primary menu, let's just call it to top menu instead of primary menu, because I think that makes more sense. You can see it changes really easily. We're going to change this back. And we just want to overwrite this. So let's go ahead and copy this function into our main file. And normally, if it didn't have that function, it would give an error. But since we had that if statement, it doesn't. So we're going to change this to my top menu. That is awesome. And you can see that it overwrites it. Now let me show you what happens if the theme doesn't do that. Now, if it didn't have this if statement, we're just going to copy this out. And this right here. We're actually going to get a PHP error. I showed you in the logs, or if you had that those errors alerted, it would tell you that you're running two of the same functions. So if we delete this, you can see that it works like normal. Anyway, if any theme developers are watching this as well, it is strongly advised to put this little if statement, even though it seems like a waste of code and it's just one more thing to do, it really would make your theme more user-friendly and more developer-friendly for people that want to use it as a base of their child theme. Anyway, that concludes this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and please subscribe to my channel, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Have a great day. Bye.